Welcome to Civil Drafting. This spring semester, we're going to be working primarily with Civil 3D. I'm your instructor, Aaron Windels, and glad to have you here. We're going to start with the Moodle area, showing you what files to get going on. And I'm here in our class at the moment, and we're going to start with the syllabus and book for yourself prior, but we're going to start right up with the files and the chapter labs in Chapter 1, Navigating the Civil 3D User Interface, which will be our first week of class. If we go into here into lab files, as we're going to do through the semester, generally everything you see within this folder, whether it's a zip file or a zip folder or single files, we want to download every one of these. We're going to use these. So let's pretend I already have those downloaded and get going with Civil 3D right now. I have Civil 3D 2022 installed, which will be great. You could have anything from 2018 to 2022 is fine. I'm just giving this a go in 2022 to see how it works with this older textbook. A lot has changed in Civil 3D, but not a ton. There's plenty of overlapping stuff in the custom, and not in the custom user interface, but in the user interface. Civil 3D commands and your regular AutoCAD commands. It's gotten some more new, some better features, some more add-ins to the ribbon and to other areas and to Civil 3D commands. It's a little sleeker, a little less buggy at times. You'll find out Civil 3D is a very crash-prone program. It's gotten better, but if you're not working hard enough in a drawing, sometimes you'll be surprised that it crashes an awful lot. So I guess what I was trying to say is, if you don't make it crash on a long work day, you haven't done your job hard enough, because Civil 3D tends to crash a fair amount. But that's just a critical observation of an otherwise industry-leading program compared to most other programs out there. It's far more used than MicroStation, OpenRoads Designer, or MicroStation. Probably its distant second competitor that's used a lot. It's a highly used software by many firms across civil engineering and land surveying industries, as well as structural and many others. So let's start by going into Chapter 1 on page 1, basically, and I'm going to open up some of my lab files through. We'll just start with the user interface one. We'll go into the first couple pages and start talking about what's all in our Civil 3D drawings. I'm going to set up a few things. I have 3 model space windows that opened up right away. It opened up in a 2018 file format, which every drawing from Civil 3D 2018 to 2022 is in the same format. They're interchangeable. They can be forward and backward saved, which is really great in general. There's a few little caveats to that, but that's the general truth of the matter. So I'm opened up in Civil 3D 2022, and we're going to start by talking about the application menu in the upper left-hand side here. We have some of our most common things, like opening up a new drawing or sheet set. New DWG is the default format of AutoCAD, as well as DWT, which is a template file, DWS, which is a standard file, very much like a template file, and there are DXF files, which are more simplified, stripped down DWG main drawing files, which we won't do much in this class, but they're very interrelated to DWG files. Some DGN files, stuff, so that's MicroStation. Some other stuff, we have save, obvious what that is. Save as is a different drawing or a different type of drawing. Different format of drawing. Like I just said, there's DWG, DWT. DWG is the home base file for AutoCAD or Civil 3D. Very self-contained files now. Mostly everything's in them. We'll find out in this class that there's some tertiary files. Not as many as there used to be, but less. There still are some. DWT is the template file I was talking about. DWS is standards file, and the DXF is the cleaner, smaller, more simplified version of DWG that sometimes surveyors will use, for example, in their data collectors. Some convert commands. We have our export commands to different file formats and various things. Our publish command for mass producing sheets. We'll get into that possibly later. Print command for single sheets. Some deeper drawing utilities for properties and units of the drawing and auditing and cleaning it. These commands get pretty deep, as Civil 3D and AutoCAD can be clunky programs to learn, there's a lot of commands. These help you clean out drawings that get a lot of weird errors thrown in them. That's a little out of the scope of this course, but it's something if you're going to be using Civil 3D, you're going to be dealing with. You're going to deal with some of these commands to clean them up. And last but not least, I have my options area, which I can also get to in other ways, but let's go there right now. My options opening up. I'm going to start by helping you guys get going on the right foot to, let's check our settings on open and save. It should have automatic save already on, and every 10 minutes. That's fine. That's what I prefer. This is something that'll help you through the semester. When CAD crashes, it'll have an auto save. Let's tell it where to go. I put a good easy location on my C drive, my documents, AutoCAD autosave. It's just a simple spot I put on my C drive for myself. That's where my drawings will autosave to. So part of what that means is when they save, they're going to populate here over time. And a little beyond this, they're going to come in here as a SV money sign symbol, and you'll need to actually change the file when those populate, much like backup files in AutoCAD. They're called this. This is the last save of your file. If you want it to function, say like this file, your main DWG, you have to physically rename it to DWG to get the functionality of the drawing. So it won't like that because I got two of them, but that's what you have to do. Same with the autosave files that populate here. You need to rename them to DWG to make them usable. One way that you have to have in your Windows File Explorer options, go there, View. You need to turn on off hiding extensions. We want to be able to see all extensions, so that'll help us. File extensions, that is. Okay, all file extensions are now shown. It's a little bit of a deep edit, but that way, let's just call this user interface 2 just for 22 for instruction purposes. I can rename these easier. All the extensions are there. It says it might become unusable. No, I know it's going to be a DWG file. Let's change that. That's how we use our backup files. I'll delete that file just for now. And our autosave files when they populate. So going back here, I like to go to some of my options and change certain things. You can also get to it by right-clicking, going to Options. I like to change a lot of things with my elements. I like to change my crosshair size here to the full screen. If you hit Apply, it'll apply it while I'm in here. Okay, it also does that, it accepts it. Same with anything in Civil 3D or AutoCAD, but it will leave this dialog box. That's the difference between Apply and OK on that case. I'm going to go to Display, excuse me. You can switch your display to a lighter display here. That'll take a minute. Or a dark display. I like the dark display. There's many other commands in here. I'm not going to go too far. You can set your default printer here. Drafting, you can change your drafting marker sizes and various colors about them. More published settings. Mainly I'll change a few colors here. I like my background and my model spaces to be black. It helps me see better contrast wise, and then when I plot I like to see things in white. I'm going to go to my sheet layout area and change my paper background, or my uniform background, excuse me, from white to black. Hit Apply and OK. So now when I go to my paper spaces through my layout tabs here, as we learn about the interface, I have a black background. So I like that. When I type in plot, if I go up here to plot, let's just do a quick plot setting. It's black right now. but it's actually white. So this is me previewing what it would look like if I plotted it. It would plot white. This is where I like to check how it plots, but I like to see my paper spaces in black. It helps me be able to see the screen a lot better. So that's just a couple things I do. Getting into the user interface from the application window into page 4 and 5, we have a ribbon, our very standard commands. Most of them are in the Home tab. We have a lot of our main Civil 3D palettes in here. You can turn on and off easily. I'm going to turn a few more on. I want to turn my layers on. Let's move that down here for now. I'm going to turn on my external references manager. I use this all the time when I'm working in the real world projects, basically linking files to files. I'm going to turn on this later, the event viewer, to show you this is a main Civil 3D design area, the Panorama or event viewer. When you resize these, they stay that size when they open back up again. This also closes it. That will be reopened later. I'm going to turn on my sheet set manager. That's also something I use a lot when I'm printing sheets. I'm going to start dragging these to the left, holding them like that so they dock. I'm going to use this auto hide button here. So when I hover on them, they pop out, but when I hover off of them, they go away. Do the same with my external references manager. Hide that. My layer properties manager, I'm going to move that in there, and I'm also really going to expand this one. Layers are used in AutoCAD a lot. Obviously, this is filled with Civil 3D default layers, over 177 of them. Most of them are for Civil 3D only, driven by Civil 3D styles. We won't talk too much about that right now, but this is a very important part of AutoCAD, is learning how to use and manipulate styles efficiently, or excuse me, layers efficiently. So we'll let that cascade down. I gotta tell it to, right here. Give it a second. Okay, I got my 3 favorite ones over there. I already have properties taken over here. Let's just say I have it turned off. It's also up here. Turn it on and off. You can also click on basically any entity in one of these viewports, and you go to properties this way. I like having this open at all times. When I click on things, I can see various items of given elements right when I click on it. So I clicked on this surface. It says a little bit about it, what its name, its style, its layer, its colors, and stuff like that. So I like to leave that there. Tool space is a big one. We'll get into that soon. I'm not exactly staying exactly to the pages of the book, which is fine. We'll cover all this right now. Tool space is one of your main areas of Civil 3D. It's in a tree format, everything from points down to view frame groups. We have our data shortcuts. We'll talk about those later. That's how we link drawings to each other in a live mode. So one is live in a different spot. We can also manipulate it in two areas. A little deeper, but it's related. This is not in the textbook. This is a new add-in in the last few versions of Civil 3D Bridges. Point clouds are now gone. Those are all part of recap. But we have all of our areas of Civil 3D. We have a couple Civil 3D entities in here, a couple alignments, as we see as we cascade down. Profiles, profile views, alignments and profiles. Since they're all in this area, that means they're interlinked. They work together. Same with sample lines and later section views. They all cascade in this tree here for another time, but our surface here is cascaded in this area, surfaces, in the tool space. This prospector tab of tool space is going to be one of your most used new areas you're learning in Civil 3D, which leads us to the settings tab, which is the deeper areas of Civil 3D. It's not quite as big in this class as the prospector tab, but we're going to know that there's a ton of settings in here about all of our Civil 3D entities. Okay, so everything that makes them what they are in the Civil 3D styles and their settings are located in here in any given drawing. So it depends how good your drawing is and where it comes from. A lot of this stuff we're not going to edit too much. This is kind of a more higher level management area that maybe a CAD manager or the best Civil 3D guru at an office might be using, or engineer, they'll maintain a lot of these settings and Civil 3D styles that are deep within here. Say an existing style for an alignment is where I'm at right here. Which takes us to the survey tab. We're going to be going over this deeper into chapters 3 and 4, but this is a raw data processing area for survey data in Civil 3D's fashion. A lot of us in certain industries use Trimble for this as well, and this is Civil 3D or Autodesk's version of similar things using raw survey data. And lastly, to our toolbox, it has options for many add-ins into Civil 3D, namely in this area, miscellaneous utilities, but I mostly use it for making detailed reports of certain Civil 3D entities. Say like an alignment, I want to talk about all the geometry of it, and it spits out a clean report of a certain format. Or a lot of times for a government agency, I've made parcel reports of all the lines that make up a parcel of a property. For example, they want that submitted with the legal property. There's certain things in here. So that takes me out of the tool space area. And we have tool palettes, which chapter 1 doesn't really talk about in this book. So the book we're going to use is a little dated, but it's still pretty relevant. AutoCAD Civil 3D 2016 Essentials by Eric Chappell. But we'll get into tool palettes later. These are basically a lot of our assemblies we can drag in to design roads and various civil structures with in Civil 3D, which we'll cover in later chapters. We have a box girder here we can drag in and add to an assembly somewhere. For example, a box girder bridge section or some rails. Or we have highway signs. We have some road cross sections here. We have some building styles that we can add to sites. All kinds of stuff. A lot of the main ones, if you right click like down here, very close to the bottom, you can see how many there are, how many different tool palette areas there are. I'm going to go to lanes, for example. All the different lanes I could pull over to assemblies. If I go way down here to the very bottom and I right click in the right spot, you can see them all. So we'll get into some of those later. There's a lot of them to choose from. A lot of them work well, a lot of them are very confusing. Gets me to page 10 on through page 11, 12, which brings us to the command line. So you can have Civil 3D. Actually, let's fix this layer dialog box, move it out a little bit. One thing I like to do is to lock my user interface right here, but I will leave it floating right now, so I can still move stuff in my user interface around. Okay. And another thing to note about Civil 3D and AutoCAD in general, drawings will autosave, and you can save them when you want. They'll only autosave in this case every 10 minutes, but my settings, what I'm doing right now, doesn't save automatically. I need to close CAD out cleanly before it crashes inefficiently to save all the things I've just done in my user interface, so keep that in mind. Let's go into the command line. So the command line here, which is up here, you can turn it on, or Control+9. This is what we talk to Civil 3D with. I'm going to say polyline. I want to start drawing a polyline. It tells me my options are when I start typing it. It also tells us what to do. So a lot like the status bar in Revit. It says, okay, you've typed in your noun, your object, polyline. Now I'm giving you a verb. It says, where do you want to put it? I'll say, okay, start point here. So command line goes both ways. You talk to it, it talks to you, tells you what you need to do next. And now that I have my starting point, it says, well, what now? Do I want to do arc length? Do I want to undo? Do I want to make it a certain width? Or do I just want to pick the next point? A lot of times it's just pick the next point. It will happen unless you pick one of these gray commands to the next thing. Basic AutoCAD stuff, but that's the command line. I prefer to have the command line down here. I like having almost all of it showing to about 3 or 4 lines. For example, when I say go to an analyze command and I want to check the angle of this line, let's just say, and I say CG list, let's get some info on this line, and it's saying we'll select the object, the command line, left click it. I can see the northing and easting of the beginning and the end of the line, the distance and the course, aka bearing, right here. If I had this cascaded too far down, I won't be able to see all this good data. Maybe I want to copy paste it, and I do want to see it. So there's some reasons to have this command line open to see certain things. A lot of stuff is you click things, enter buttons, your data entry button. The escape button's your best friend to get you out of commands, and it'll keep populating. So if I type in polyline again, oops, and I'll hit escape. Escape takes me out of it. You'll see cancel there. So escape and enter your friends. One's to start, one's to end a command. So let's go into Panorama. So for example, let's see if I can find something worth it. Let's pick this alignment and say edit alignment geometry. So that's the wrong one. I'm trying to get the Panorama open for certain things. Well, let's just speed it up. The Panorama is on page 13. It's a extended area to see more design information in Civil 3D, from anything from Cocoa points to alignments to about anything you could think of. But it's only certain things engage it. So let me turn it on. It's also called the not the object viewer. There it is, the event viewer. So I have it on and off here. Certain things will prompt it and make it turn on. Not everything will. It has different tabs though sometimes come, errors, geometry editing, various things like that. Let me try edit alignment geometry. This actually might take me somewhere. This is deeper than we need to go, but let me go into this. Whoops. Click. There we go. It's just a little different interface between 2016 and 2022. So I went to alignment grid view. I'm going deep edits of the information of this alignment. It populated this panorama. If I didn't have this panorama open, it would have populated it anyway. I'm going to close edit alignment geometry. Actually, let me not do that just yet. I can get to it by right clicking like I just did. Hit it again. So it opened this. So this has, as we learn this class in Civil 3D, this is opens for different functions. Okay, and the more remote I get to working with Civil 3D in my day-to-day work, the more I do like having this slid over to a second monitor, because I sometimes need it for many things of data in rows, a lot of rows of data basically. A lot of times I just leave it off until it pops up with the right command. So that's going to be being used a lot. It's a little bit of a vague explanation of it in the book, but it's heavily used. Or when we go, for example, analyze volumes dashboard, it comes up, and we do some volume analysis between surfaces. That'll come later. Panorama is used for many things. As you can see, most things I like are all on my one screen. I like it that way. I like having my properties kind of pulled out like that. My tool palettes and tool space Civil 3D stuff over here. More of my AutoCAD stuff over here, like Sheet Set Manager, External Reference Manager, Layer Properties Manager. And one last one sometimes I like to use very often is the Design Center. You can also type in DC or Add Center. That is a way to bring in Civil 3D styles between drawings. That's very handy. That's a little out of the scope of this class. I like to leave this one over here on the right side for myself in case I need to scoop cool styles from one drawing and drag and drop them into this one. So my screen real estate's about where it's at, minus the panorama, which I like to put on a different screen a lot. And we'll notice we have most things in AutoCAD nowadays are ribbon based. Back in the day, everyone lost their minds when it went to ribbon based. The sky was falling. Well, now we're getting pretty used to it. The ribbon works pretty well in that you pick certain things that helps you learn what is possible with them quicker. For example, I just picked a surface here. Let me do that again. My ribbon changes to something blue highlighted. This is Civil 3D 2022, mind you. This is a contextual ribbon. It brings up only options relevant, at least Civil 3D deemed, and designed to this surface. A lot of good stuff in here. You learn a lot of things that you can do with entities just by looking at the contextual ribbon that comes up. It's very powerful that way. If we back out of the ribbon, I'll stay on the Home tab here for a case of explanation. We have a lot of we have our ribbon up here, our different tabs, and within each tab we have our panels, palettes, create ground data, create Civil 3D design. These are all panels inside of this tab. We have a lot of our AutoCAD ones over here on the Home tab from Draw, Modify, Layers, and Clipboard. And we have a lot of our palettes to open up and a lot of our Civil 3D entry stuff right here, our Civil 3D entities right in this home base. So we're getting used to looking at this alongside of our tool space over here, which is where I like to put it. You can put it wherever you want, with this file tree of your Civil 3D entities mixed with your options to edit entities, which there's more in here as we go along, especially in the Modify tab here. But let's stick to the Home tab for now, which brings me to the last couple of areas of Chapter 1. It wants to talk about our transparent commands, which it's funny, they still come in as a toolbar. Toolbars are another old holdout of AutoCAD. All these commands used to be in toolbars like this. Now they're pretty much all in the ribbon. We also used to have a menu bar. If I type in menu bar, I'll just turn it on with a 1 here. We used to have all this same stuff would come up in menu bars like this. More old school CAD. A lot of programs have fully moved to the ribbon now. So almost everything you find in the ribbon you can also find in a different format and cascading style up here in the menu bar. But I'm going to turn that back off by typing in menu bar. I'll physically go to my here we go. It's also shown there as clickable. And I'm going to change it to 0. Just to show you it's there. These transparent commands, which are in this toolbar, are also now in the latest versions of Civil 3D in the ribbon, which is great. So I honestly will probably turn that off because they're up here now. And they're better explained, better graphics. Like anything in Civil 3D, most things, you can hover on it. It gives you more information, similar to like in Revit as well. It also will list things, saying what it is, obviously. Furthermore, besides the command bar, which we covered a little bit, there's also an area in the application menu up here. You can type in commands similarly to the command line. Let's just say I'm going to type in something like create alignment. It's going to have a bunch of options that come up here. It's like a search bar for Civil 3D for options. I know MicroStation or Bentley Open Roads Designer is very big on this. When you can't find commands, go here and see what you can find. There's lots of use in this. It's one more area. But going back to page 14 on the transparent commands, we'll open up the ribbon, or if you have that toolbar, use that. It's asking us to just kind of see how the drawing utilizes this. So think of the transparent commands as it uses AutoCAD commands, but it applies a option to draft things or design things like a civil engineer or a land surveyor would. So on page 14, I'm just going to start by typing in L for line. And I also have, before we go there, I have my tool, what do you call this? My tool tray is fully loaded. So I can click on my stuff on and off easily. Go to this hamburger button over here on the right. I turned everything on just to help you guys out, show you where everything is. Everything is on. So just keep that in mind. You can do the same. You don't have to. It does fill up a little bit of real estate on this bottom area. It runs into your tabs over here for paper space, but I'm doing this for instructional purposes. I have the dynamic input on. I'm going to leave that on because that's the default setting. A lot of you guys might prefer that. So that means things are going to populate on the screen. So when I turn it off, I start typing in line down here. Nothing shows up over here, only down here. But if I turn my dynamic input on, dime mode, I start typing in line. I hit enter. After that, options will come up on the screen. So it didn't quite do it the way I thought it would. Turn it back on, type in polyline. Let's type in p-edit, polyline edit. Let me select the polyline. So this is what it would look like. Certain things with dynamic input on, which is down here, will give you these same options on the screen in a contextual way, or a heads-up prompt, as some people call it with Bentley. Autodesk might call it something different. And it's also the same options here. These in the command line after a command's initiated, after you pick the verb or the noun, depending, the verb, the action, it'll have more options to pick. These mean they're selectable. Also these as well. So I'll say width, of 10, makes it a width of 10, I'll hit escape, I'm done. So just keep that in mind. A lot of good options down here for more AutoCAD based learning. I'm not going to cover all AutoCAD things. This is more for Civil 3D. A little intro to AutoCAD would have gone a long way for this class. Being a basic AutoCAD learner for this class might give you a little bit of a struggle, but we're mostly staying on Civil 3D commands. So with that being said, we're going to go back to page 14 and type in L for line. And I'm just going to pick a spot. Let's pick a point near wherever. It says the center of the screen. Then it's going to ask next point. Well, we're going to instead go to the next point. We're going to say we want it to draw that line by bearing and distance. I'm going to say which quadrant? Well, I'm going to say quadrant 1. That's what we want there. Let's try that again. Repeat line. Let's just start out by not hitting first point. I did that a little bit overzealously. Before I pick the first point, let me hit bearing distance. Now I'll hit the starting point. Now I can graphically pick which quadrant of the 4 quadrants. Okay, I'm going to pick quadrant 1, and now it wants the bearing. This is just me drawing a line like any AutoCAD command with some additional tools to do it, like a civil engineer or a surveyor would. And I'm just going to type in 45. Enter. Now it wants to get a distance. It's looking like my observation and my rod in the field, right? That's kind of the graphics it's showing. I'm going to hit 500. Hit enter. So that's where it started. Try line again. Now if I pick the first point and I say bearing distance, I'm going to say quadrant 1. I'm going to say bearing of 50 for 50 degrees. I'm going to say distance of 500 feet. Now I have the line. Hit enter again. It starts from that same endpoint. I could hit bearing and distance from that point and say, it's funny, it's not giving me graphically on this one. It's giving me graphically in this area, which leads me to, let's show one more thing. We go to view. Let's turn some of these viewports on and off. So keep in mind, so if you go to the view tab in the model viewports panel, I can turn it back to a single one. I have it on this configuration right now, which most of your files in this class are going to be in this configuration. 3 left. So you're going to have your plan view here, which in Civil 3D, most of our drafting is going to be in plan view, looking straight down. The majority of the time, it's a 3D program, but it works far better in plan view. It's not as true of a 3D program as, say, Revit, that you're orbiting around as much. This is a similar one, except for it's a little more zoomed into one area of our alignment here, for example. And then this one to the lower right is a totally different type of viewport. It's orbited to a 3D view with things at 0 elevation and then the surface elevated at a certain style. So this is in a true 3D view. Be very careful with this view. It loves to crash. It loves to make you crash AutoCAD, and be careful moving around too fast or doing too quick of edits in here. I like how we're bounced between the 3 areas, but for this, I'm going to go back to here and say single. Whichever view you were in last, it'll go back to it. So I'm going to hit Control Z or undo. Undo is a big pain in the butt in AutoCAD. Every time you move, pan, or zoom, it collects a command. So sometimes you have to undo many commands like this. See what I'm doing? Let's just say I want to undo 7 commands right there. So by left clicking in that viewport within my model space, I'm activated in that view. Now if I go to single, it'll collect this view. But if I go back to viewport 3 left, it'll copy this view 3 times. There's other ways I showed you in class how to save a view here through name views, so you can save that 3D view. Let's not worry about that right now. It's single view for now. Let's check again by typing line, and we'll go back to our transparent commands. I'm going to draw it by bearing distance. Let's pick starting point. Now I'm totally in this view committed. I'm going to say I want to go to the southwest. I want to go to a bearing of 50 degrees, 67 seconds, 67 minute, 55 minutes. You can only have up to 60 minutes in an hour, and 25 seconds. That's how you would type it. 50 degrees, 55 minutes, 25 seconds. Enter. Now it wants the distance. I'm going to say 820. Enter. That's where it starts from. Okay. So anyway, those are some of our commands. And one of the last areas is the inquiry tool in AutoCAD. So some of the time you are providing, most of the time you're giving information to the drawing, but sometimes you want the drawing to tell you something. So that's where the inquiry tool comes in. It's a tool that doesn't get used a ton, but similar to, we're just telling the drawing what to do. We're drawing a line. So if I go back to home and draw a line, also on page 15 it says there's a lot of these same ways to create a line from the get-go without the transparent command. So you can start by saying, instead of creating a line the old XYZ way, you can say create a line by bearing here, and it'll do the same thing. So almost better than the transparent command. It goes right to it. If we go to the inquiry tool, I'm going to start by opening up the inquiry drawing, which is right here that we downloaded. And we'll go into the Analyze tab right here, and then we're going to go to the inquiry area, and there's different types of inquiries in here, but basically we're going to open up the whole tool. So I do a lot of these when I check distances, areas, and stuff, but we're going to open up the entire tool here. It says please select an inquiry type. We're going to say point and point inverse. So we're going to check inverse directionality of 2 points we pick. This is a drawing telling us some info when we tell it to. I'm going to start by picking the first point to the southwest, and I already have my O-snaps on. You can also hit Shift and right click just to say I only want to use OSNAP endpoint just for this one command. And then it's over with. Unless you have it on the running OSNAP. So any OSNAPs in this method that are checkboxed means they're on until you turn them off. Running OSNAP, they'll be on until they're turned off. So I have endpoint, center point, intersection, and extension. I'm going to turn extension off for now. So endpoint will keep going until I tell it not to. So my second point I picked, and then the inquiry gives me what I asked. It says point 1 coordinate and the XY plane, which is X and Y, and point 1 easting, which is essentially the X dimension. And eastings, they go east and west. It's a civil 3D land surveying thing. It's like the X dimension. Northing is like the Y dimension. They go in the north-south direction, similar to latitude. Latitude would be in the Y direction, also in the northing direction. Longitude would be in the X direction, also in the easting. So they're all kind of in some ways similar in a grid. They're different ways of talking about grid measurements. So it gave me the X and Y of this point, and also the northing easting, and any other information depending on point 2, which was here. It gave me the info on that. Point 1, which was up here, it gave me the info on that. And then it gave me a direction and a bearing distance format. North 45 degrees 000 northeast and 500 feet, more in a surveying nomenclature. So lots of handy stuff with the inquiry tool you could use to flesh out information you seek, instead of always having to, for example, let's type in CG list or pick this in the analyze inquiry, and I pick this. It populates down here, okay, all this data of this line. If I hit escape and I keep moving around, type in other commands, my command line continues forward. This inquiry tool stays open, so that could be handy depending on what you need. That pretty much completes chapter 1. Now you're much more comfortable with Civil 3D. You got a little bit of a gist of the overall layout, where things are. We even talked about the tool tray down here a little bit. We didn't talk about the quick access toolbar too much, but this is how yours should probably be installed out of the box. It'll have these options with other options possible. And we got through most of the basics of Civil 3D, so you just basically just turn in your inquiry drawing, and it's all for chapter 1, and we'll move on to chapter 2 next week.